Hello and welcome to the Recruit Rockstars podcast, where we focus on the people part of your growth stage company. Whether you're VC-backed, private equity-backed, bootstrapping, however you've chosen to do it, you're in the right place if you want to learn about how to scale the people part of your business. I am thrilled today, not one guest, I've got two guests, co-founders of ettitude, which is a really super cool company, bamboo-based bedding. We're going to figure out what that is, why we need it, and most importantly, how Phoebe and Kat have built a team and scaled it to 15 people now in 2 continents. So with all that said, Kat and Phoebe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thrilled to have you both on. So why don't we start with just kind of the 60-second overview of why ettitude and why do we need bedding that is made from bamboo? I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, great. So we are ettitude, and it is a sustainable lifestyle branding offer home essentials that are soft on your skin and gentle on planet. As our name indicate, everything we do in ettitude has to be sustainable. So ettitude means eco attitude. So that's a word we made. Why we use bamboo, it's literally the world's most sustainable plant. It doesn't need much water to grow, very efficient on land, and don't need any chemicals like cotton need a lot of chemical to grow. And our technology to turn that into a super soft fabric is also very sustainable. It's a closed loop production that we recycled water and recycle that organic solution we use to dissolve the bamboo to get the fiber out. So it's very clean, sufficient, resource saving. Yeah.
Very cool. It's hard to imagine that something so strong can be so soft at the same time.
Yeah. So
I guess that's your leadership style too, probably, right?
But I'm definitely a believer to use new technology to systematically and also scalability to solve the climate change problem. You cannot ask consumer to sacrifice. So it's up to entrepreneur to really using new technology, new innovation to develop products that works better than conventional ones, and at the same time better, on the environment. Then the consumer would weigh, why not, right?
Yeah. And Kat, what are the distribution channels? Is this sold only directly through e-commerce or other places too?
Yes, at the moment we are actually 100% e-com, given that all retail is paused globally at this time. But we were experimenting a little bit with retail prior to COVID. We had our own pop-up store in Los Angeles, and we had a few retail partnerships with some great partners for a while. So we are interested in, once things start opening up, to continue to explore that. But for now, it's all online.
Got it. So I understand you raised a round of venture capital earlier this year, or just pretty recently. I guess, why did you choose to do that? Why that path? What did you decide to invest that money in? Was it primarily for people or the product or something else?
Yeah, it was really a mix of uses for capital. It wasn't a big round, given that we are fairly, our unit economics are very strong. So we didn't need a whole lot to fuel our growth, but most of it was distributed equally between marketing investment, product investments, and team.
Got it. Very good. Awesome. So Phoebe, tell us about the team. So I think you said in the pre-interview you're at about 15 people, and I asked if you were distributed, and you said, yeah, we're distributed 2 continents. Obviously, why choose that path? That's kind of a pretty unusual challenge for a startup.
But ettitude started from Australia a few years ago. So we have the original Australian team still work in our Melbourne, Australia office. And we also actually keep growing that team. And then when we start to grow the US market, I moved first to New York and then Los Angeles. Then we start to grow our US team. So that's actually how it started. And we feel really lucky when the COVID hit, but our team are so already used to work collaboratively online, doing a lot of things remotely. We are so, Slack, Zoom, Asana is our daily life already. So we dive right into then just fully work from home model. Actually, it brings the 2 teams closer because
in what way?
Because before you still have physical office, so there is kind of still like the Australian team and the US team, even we work really collaboratively pretty well, but there's kind of still that definition. But right now, no, it's the global team. Everyone's working from home. Everyone's calling in. You're not really sitting next to someone. So they actually, the US team and Australian team, they actually are closer personally, on a personal level.
Got it.
Well,
Understood.
what's been really interesting is that we've actually brought on some new team members recently during COVID. So some of these team members have never met anyone in person yet.
And that's got to be nerve-wracking to hire someone sight unseen and try to onboard them sight unseen.
I think this type of culture is actually working from the start. When I just get to know Kat, we are remotely. I'm in Melbourne, Kat is in New York. We never met in person. And we decided to, partner together to grow the US market together and then join into an accelerator in New York together. Before that, we never met in person.
Yeah,
and
incredible.
It works perfectly. We already start to move the company quicker. We work online for 2 months before we actually met. So there's a good start. So I truly believe it can work.
It's like a blind marriage or a fixed marriage, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about the DNA. So I have to imagine that the culture and the fabric and the makeup of the people is pretty unique. To be such a distributed environment, many have never met in person. There must be some unifying characteristic that ties everyone together. What is it?
Well, I think the mission really attracts the kind of person that would be really excited about our product and what we're doing. So our mission statement is actually to create a world that is as comfortable today as in 100 years for all living things. So that really,
it's pretty big.
Yes, it is very big. It's a big vision. And I think the folks that are attracted by that mission, really believe it. And they want to make a positive impact on the world. And that's what really drives them to come to work and well, not really come to work, they're staying at home, but to really help grow the company so that we can make more positive impact. And I think recently, especially, we actually started a B Corp application process. And as part of that process, we needed to clarify a lot of our, values as a company. And we've involved multiple team members in this discussion. And I think that's really helped to strengthen the culture.
Is there a common characteristic when you think across these 15 people, just one characteristic that they all have in common, that they all share? And I don't mean their passion for the company, but just some way that they are wired.
So I think number one is their desire to make a positive impact. And number two, I think, is their entrepreneurial nature in general.
Got it. Fascinating. And I'm sure this is a mix of developers, marketers, finance folks, analytics, et cetera. How have you handled the time difference? So you're on opposite sides of the globe. It's what is it a 12-hour difference? What is the difference?
That's also part of the reason we didn't choose New York as our US office headquarters because of time zone. West Coast actually not too bad. So there's a couple of hours in the LA afternoon, which is Melbourne morning. That
where you overlap.
Where we overlap. So that's
where you have your meetings and your joint calls and your group
all hands
calls,
and
et cetera. Other than that, it's Asana and Slack and everything else. Yeah. How, if at all, how has COVID changed things in a positive way or not? And that could be through demand for the product. I know people are investing in their homes a lot more, so I'm guessing that's helped you. Maybe in other ways it's been more difficult.
I think
okay, go ahead, Phoebe.
Sorry. I think except the initial 2 weeks, everyone's freaking out in mid of March. It actually overall is positive for our company. First, as I said, it's actually strengthened our team, and our team is not just geographically diverse. It's also diverse in a lot of other criteria by cultural background, ethnically. So, and we find out scientifically that actually a more diversified time is actually a more strong agile team. So we quickly rallied up and did a lot of optimizing of the business, cut unnecessary cost, keep refining our marketing. And then right now people are more put their minds on home products, comfortable, healthy, sustainable. So we actually see an increasing demand for that, paired with also relatively cheaper ads costs on Facebook and Google. Yep. So we actually see really positive result in the last 3 months.
So generally, it's been a net positive.
Yeah, definitely.
That's terrific. But not a lot of businesses can say that, at least outside healthcare. I'm interested in kind of the hiring process at ettitude. If I was interested in joining, what are kind of the key steps? I'm guessing there are interviews. How many? Who does it? Are there anything other than interviews that you rely on to make your decisions?
Yeah, I mean, we actually took a hard look at our recruiting process recently. One, because of an increased focus on diversity, even though that Phoebe mentioned we are a very diverse team already, and female-led, minority-led, POC-led. We still feel that we could improve in our mix. So we actually took a really hard look at where we're posting our job posts, because before we were posting on, AngelList, Built in LA, Indeed, et cetera, LinkedIn, these types of forums that are typically used by startups and early stage growth companies. And we realized we weren't actually getting enough diverse candidates. So we're now expanding the list of places where we list the postings, and we're doing a lot more manual outreach to different communities. That's kind of our vision for future open positions as well, to put a lot more effort to get more diverse candidates from different communities. So that's number one. And then in terms of how we screen, it's based on experience. Depending on the position, there might be a few exercises that we'd like them to do. And actually we use a software called Predictive Index to see if the personality matches the job description. And that's helped us hire some really strong candidates recently who have been super successful in their roles.
What role, if any, do reference checks play in the process? We
do reference checks as well. We've never had a problem with a reference check in my experience hiring people ever. And there's no one, who does not give a positive recommendation, because then they wouldn't end up on that list of references. So it's more of a kind of an afterthought, because it's always positive. It's really hard to get a kind of a, what does this person have challenges with answer.
Yeah.
But I think it's still important to do. And so yes, it's definitely part of the process.
But I think we can still tell by how enthusiasm the
yes
reference talking about that person. Like recently, like we hired a global marketing director in January, right before the COVID. It's such a great hire, and we can hear from those references how they talk about her. Like, okay, we get it. Like that's the person. Yeah.
Got it. Well, any idea what your funnel looks like when it comes to hiring? Kind of what the yield is of how many candidates you need to look at to actually hire one?
There's not a specific number, but we generally aim to do at least 5 to 10 in person or on-screen interviews before we make a final decision.
Fantastic. Good. It sounds like you really take it seriously and you put a lot of time and thought into it.
Yeah, I mean, especially as such a small team, we want to bring on A+ players, because those are the people who will be hiring the future A+ players. And
that's right. Your first 50 hire the next 200, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really important to make the right hires, especially in the early stage.
Great.
And not just how they fit, also the culture fit. So like right now, still as co-founders, we interview every single people. Probably when we grow over to 100, we probably won't. More the hiring manager can make the final call. But right now, our interview is more see how that person is a culture fit. I think that's very important to us.
You're lucky when you're 15.
Multiple people still interview this person, the candidates, to get different perspectives, and we align on a rubric of ratings and then discuss.
And I'm curious, if you're not in agreement, does that mean does it need to be unanimous? And if you're not in agreement, the candidate is no longer considered, or who ultimately makes the decision if it's a tie score?
it's hasn't been a problem where somebody really says no to a candidate. Like, I don't think this person is a good fit. It's usually more of a, maybe.
Yeah.
So in that case,
Yeah.
you know, hopefully other people are enthusiastic. So it's really more, if it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, we're trying to get a high average score.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Phoebe and Kat, I give you a ton of credit. You're scaling a super cool, environmentally conscious company with a women-led, minority-focused organization in 2 continents in the middle of a pandemic. You're doing something right. So congratulations, and we really appreciate it. How can people learn more about Ettitude, getting their hands on the product, or get in touch with you?
You can find us on ettitude.com, or if you're, you know, from Australia, New Zealand, that continent, you can look at ettitude.com.au and follow us on Instagram, which is @ettitudestore. Just add it. Yeah.
Super. Well, thank you so much for making the time, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks for having me.